Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Airport Wild Podcast. We're coming to you somewhat live from the deserts of the American Southwest and reaching out to everyone from the left coast to the right coast, helping to bring wildlife management everywhere to a higher level. On today's episode, we're going to be delving into the guts of airport wildlife, or at least what that wildlife leaves behind when trying to board an aircraft the hard way. Yes, folks, we're talking about Snarge, what it means, what it's made of, and what to do with it. So let's dive right in and get down to the guts of Snarge. So before we dive into what actually makes up the guts of Snarge, let's talk about what it's made of. So Snarge is basically the leftovers after a bird strike. This is going to include the blood, the guts, unidentifiable feathers, pretty much anything that contains DNA that can be left behind, that is left behind, and then we can collect and pass on for identification. And before I should backtrack a little bit. So Snarge, for those of you wondering what Snarge stands for or what it means, it was originally described to me as a nothing word. It's just kind of this word that was made up to describe blood, guts, and other nasty bits that you might find on an aircraft after a strike. Gotta give credit where credit's due, though. I posed that question to my own mother, and she loves coming up with these things. So she came up with Snarge means the species not accurately recognizable given evidence. I thought that was pretty clever. But it's that unidentifiable part, the unrecognizable portion that gives us issues. So what we do with it is we collect it. We collect it for the passing on to the Smithsonian Institute, where they can put it through some DNA analysis and then present it to us to what actually that species that was struck was, whether it was a white-winged dove or a bat or a red-tailed hawk. Although you probably know if a red-tailed hawk hit a jet. But, yeah. So even little songbirds, little verdins, and warblers and whatnot. But, yeah, so we collect this Snarge, and we do that with a Snarge collection kit. You can either purchase these kits. There's companies such as Loomakers Wildlife that you can buy kits through. Or you can just make a kit your own self. And these kits, they're pretty basic. The big one, make sure you have with you, is a Form 5200-7 from the FAA. That's the, I gotta look it up again. It's the strike. Yeah, it's just a wildlife strike report. I want to make sure I didn't botch that up too much. So you're gonna make sure you have one of those that you fill out when you go to the strike zone. Yeah, so we take the strike kit, and the strike kit is basically everything is in one large gallon-sized Ziploc, some kind of a sealable bag, and that's kind of your goodie bag. So inside there, you're going to have the Form 5200, which may or may not have instructions with it. If you're printing off your own, if you get them from Loomakers, they will have the instructions. If not, make sure you're printing the instructions with it, just so you have them on hand when you're actually doing the collections. If you're just new to it, but it's also going to have safety gloves, PPE. So make sure you're wearing gloves. I mean, you're touching something's, used to be inside something. So make sure you're being taking care of yourself and being safe. Also, there's going to be a tongue depressor and alcohol swabs. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that tongue depressor, and the tongue depressor is more for a collection aspect. So something's like dried and crusty on there. Maybe it was struck on departure and it wasn't able to be collected until the aircraft arrived at its destination. So you can kind of scrape it away with the tongue depressor. But the actual collection is going to be with those alcohol wipes. So you're going to take out the alcohol wipe and just clean it up pretty much. You're going to try to get as much of that DNA on the alcohol wipe as you can. And when you do that, the alcohol is going to preserve it. So you get all collected, you put the DNA contained alcohol swab back in the smaller. Oh, I should back up. The gloves, the tongue depressor, and the swabs alcohol pads are going to be in a quart-sized Ziploc bag. So put the alcohol back in the quart-sized and leave it open for a little while. Allow that alcohol to evaporate and leaves that DNA behind. It just helps the Smithsonian down the line. And then you can take that and the filled out 5200 form and make sure you get as much information as you can. And then you can take it back to your, whether you do it on your phone or back at the office, but take those and get on the FAA website, which would, for this is going to be wildlife.faa.gov/strikenew.aspx. Again, that's wildlife.faa.gov/strikenew, one word, .a is an Alpha, Sierra, Papa, X-ray. And what you're going to do is you take that same, it's just a digital version of that 5200 form. And you take all the information you just wrote down and put it in here. And then when you get done with that, you're going to hit Submit Strike Report, and it's going to have a little prompt on there. Are you sure you want to submit? And as long as you put all your information in there, you go ahead, click yes or okay. And that's going to spit back a receipt number for you. That's what I call it, a receipt number. But that's a unique code for that strike. It's going to be like the year, the date, and it's going to have a unique identifier after that. So what I like to do is I'll take that strike, that receipt number, and I'll write it right at the very top of my hard copy 5200. Then I'll go and make a copy of it, and then the original I keep for my own self. I make sure that I have it. We keep a logbook of all of those strikes, Snarge and otherwise, and known, all together. And then you can take the copy with it, which will still have that identifier at the top and all the same information of what your recorder has. Take that and the now closed alcohol swab with the DNA in it, and you're gonna put it in an envelope. I mean, like a big, big vanilla, like inner office envelope. And on there, you're just gonna stick it with the address, which I wish I had the address up right now, but I do not. But you can get online and find the address. Basically, you're sending it to the the Feather Identification Lab at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. And they've got some awesome staff there that will identify your bird. And then when you have that identifier on there, they will actually go back in the records and edit your form for you with what species it was. And then when you have it, when it's been edited, you should have your email in the little reported by box at the bottom. So when those reports get kicked back, not kicked back in a bad way, but kicked back that it's been edited by somebody else, it'll alert you, and then you can go in there, look, and instead of Snarge or unknown, it'll put in the species, whether it's, again, white-winged dove, Mexican free-tailed bat, whatever might have gotten struck, and then you can update your own records. So it's really kind of smooth, clear process that keeps everybody in the loop and keeps the truck rolling, as it were. So yeah, that's basically Snarge and Snarge Collection in a nutshell. If anybody ever has any questions or any topic ideas, make sure to reach out to us at the Airport Wild. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much any of the social media realms. We'd be more than happy to take any requests and keep this truck rolling and help everybody bring their wildlife management to a higher level. Good night, everybody. Oh!